Thank you all for joining us. We do have Shauna Norman, Program Coordinator at Choices for Youth in Newfoundland. Shauna will provide an overview of their Momma Moments program, which is based in St. John's and supports young mothers aged 16 to 29 and their children through comprehensive wraparound services and housing. She will also be sharing a case story highlighting the integrated services that help clients establish stability. It's a great opportunity to learn about an incredible program that truly meets young moms when they're at and creates a space for them to stabilize and thrive. As always, we'll be wrapping up at 2 p.m. or by 2 p.m. And we'll leave time at the end of the presentation for questions and comments. We will also be monitoring the chat throughout for any questions and also tech issues that come up. And just a reminder for folks that the presentation is being recorded, and we will be following up with an email with resources, the slide deck, and anything else that come from today. And then with that, I will pass it over to Shauna.
Thank you, Brenna. Hi, everybody. I haven't done a presentation or public speaking in quite some time, so please tell me if I'm talking too fast or interrupt me to ask a question. That's totally fine. I have this lovely slideshow to share with you that our communications department created for us. I am in St. John's, Newfoundland. I am originally from Ottawa, Ontario, though, so we were neighbors at one point. And I'm happy to be here. Our program, I'm going to go to the next slide. So our program is called Momma Moments. For the last 20 years, we've been supporting female identifying, mom identifying young people between the ages of 16 to 29. We do wraparound services, we run programming, and then we also have 19 affordable housing units that are all inclusive. So yeah, that's our program. Our evolutionary goals are to support dads. We support dads right now and other family members through a FNS kind of approach to our work. But right now, through case management services, it's just moms and their children. So again, like I said, the eligibility are mothers age 16 to 29 years old. They have to be actively parenting and or working towards parenting. The children don't need to be in their care, but they have to want access to the kids. So whether it's through visitation or even if they're pregnant and wanting to put their child up for adoption, something like that, we would still support. Priority for our program is given to mothers who are in the perinatal period, and we consider that prenatal up to 2 years postpartum, who are struggling with substance use disorder, intimate partner violence. They have self-identified mental health struggles. They might be homeless or quite isolated and or low income. I thought it might be relevant to highlight kind of what the structure of our program and how many staff we have. We have 3 program facilitators and case managers. They hold a caseload of 8 to 12 families each. We have 1 community support worker and 1 housing specialist. We also have 2 doctors on our team who offer, in total, it's a full day, full 8-hour day of medical appointments for our clients that we schedule. So we do a bit of like medical triage and booking appointments and things like that. And then myself, the coordinator. Choices for Youth also has a mental health team, which consists of several therapists across the province, and they accept internal referrals. So we can refer to a therapist through our program. So how we operate, our housing is not supportive housing. Like I said, we have 19 affordable housing units, but it is a landlord-tenant arrangement. All of our tenants in those units come from our case management lists. So they are part of case management services whenever they're added to our wait list and considered for our housing. But some have transitioned off case management services and they can stay in our housing over 30 years old. So that's kind of a neat piece of our housing. They're always connected through our community support worker or our outreach team. Like if they need anything, they can reach out. But we do have families in our housing that aren't case managed at all. And so that also means that, because we function like a landlord, we do give evictions and warnings and notices under that board. We operate from a low barrier harm reduction model. We meet people in the community and in their homes, and we always bring food. I did want to highlight that because food is like the center of everything. So at the very least, we're asking people if they're hungry, if they want to meet at a Tim Hortons. That really helps us build rapport with our moms. And none of our supports and services are mandated. We do collaborate a lot with youth services and a lot with child protection services, but we're not mandated. And we kind of err on the side of not having um, supervised access workers in our space. So if a parent needs supervision with their child, we provide that supervision during our groups or during appointments or through medical appointments. As much as possible, we'd like to keep child protective services staff out of our space just due to confidentiality and rapport building with our folks. Our entire team is trained in family and natural supports work, so we engage the entire family and the natural support circle identified by the client. At intake, we ask the client who those people are. It could be a friend, a boyfriend, a grandma, a neighbor, a teacher. We ask them who they would identify as a support if they have any, and we would explore a consent to engage with them. We might even just reach out to grandma, hey, can you provide rides to our programming once a week? That's how we would engage family. Um, we also invite partners, grandparents, and friends to various programming and medical appointments if the mom wants that. So, like well baby checkups and stuff by our doctors, dads typically would come or a mom might come. Our referral process. Referrals are typically received internally through Choices for Youth. We also have various partner agencies, as I'm sure you do in Toronto, but lots of partner agencies around St. John's. Child Protection Services and Youth Services refer to us directly, pediatrics, and psychiatry and maternity ward at hospital. When referrals are made, so we've done a lot of work to build a close relationship with what we call 5 North B. It's the maternity ward at the main hospital here in St. John's. So we have a relationship with the social worker there, and we get referrals right from her. When we get referrals from the social worker in the hospital, it's our goal to show up within 48 hours. So we show up with a welcome to the world bag. It has a bunch of postnatal stuff for mom and a bunch of stuff for baby in this bag. And the mom is already aware the referral went through because there was consent for that referral to go. And we check in with mom. Typically, the population that we support, they're in the hospital for a couple days after birth, like postnatally. So we've got that time. Okay. I wanted to read a case story, but I don't know, should I ask if anybody has questions yet at this point before I read a case story?
There was
If not,
actually one question.
yeah.
What if you can talk a little bit more, if possible, about what the eviction process might look like and if it's supportive?
Mm, okay. Um, it is supportive, absolutely. We're not supportive housing. So, I mean, if somebody is repeatedly bringing violence to their home or disrupting like other tenants and things like that. We give a lot of leeway with notices and trying to intervene, but ultimately we would, yeah, I don't know how to really explain this. It's a case by case situation because we have 19 units. We have a lot of families that we have to be mindful of. So if one person has, for example, this is something we experience, one person in our housing might lose access to their children. They might become more entrenched with drugs or crime. And if it's a situation of safety, we will evict. We will evict supportively in terms of giving them access or giving them support to call, the emergency shelter line, doing applications to end homelessness, that sort of thing. But again, we have to look at the whole unit and all of the families in the surrounding area. When people like fall back on rent or We're a bit more lenient with those sorts of things, and we will try to connect with staff, try to meet with them, try to work out payment plans. We're not like a cut dry landlord, but we're also not supportive. So we're somewhere in between. We're not supportive housing. Sorry. Yeah. Does that does that answer the question, I guess?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Are there any other questions so far? No. This is going by really fast because I talk really fast. All right. I'm going to read you a case story. This is somebody who's gone through our program. I'm kind of giving just an overview of how they've migrated through our supports, and you can ask some questions afterwards. So this story is about Alice. Alice is a 16-year-old prenatal person. She's 20 weeks pregnant, and she struggles with alcohol and drug use. She has little to no family supports. She actually just recently fled her mother's home and is couch surfing with friends. Alice is in the care of youth services, and that's who referred her to our program. Okay. Just before I get into that, when Alice was referred to our program, it was noted that she was at risk of losing her baby or her baby being apprehended at birth because she didn't have stable housing and because of her age. So her intake was prioritized based on the things I just mentioned. Um, Our Momma Moments case manager reaches out to Alice by text. So we do that a lot. We ask people how they want to be communicated with. All of our case managers have phones. And we texted Alice to see if she'd like to meet. And we met with her at Tim Hortons for a coffee prior to completing any paperwork. So the case manager went out, met with her at Tim Hortons, bought her a coffee. All of our case managers have Tim's cards, and just had a chat. The second time we met with Alice, she was drove by her youth services worker to our center, and we completed some paperwork that way. While she was here for her intake, we booked her a doctor's appointment because she didn't have consistent prenatal follow-ups or care. We did a referral to therapy because she identified wanting some support with her drug and alcohol use. And we invited her to our Thursday evening peer-to-peer group. So every week we run a Thursday evening peer-to-peer group, which is a space for moms to attend with their children, have a hot meal, connect with staff, connect with their peers, and do a craft, do a mental health check-in, that sort of thing. She was apprehensive at first to attend the peer-to-peer group. Most of our participants, it takes them a little bit to get comfortable with group environments. So we might meet with them one-on-one for a couple weeks before they feel comfortable coming to group. Okay, so so our case managers do weekly check-ins with folks. Sometimes those are, a couple times a week, depending on their situation. Sometimes it might be once bi-weekly if they've been in the program for a little bit. So it's kind of up to them and the participant how they access supports. But Alice access weekly one-on-one support from their case manager. We frequently supported Alice with meals and transportation, so picking her up and driving her to appointments, bringing her meals, and getting her to medical appointments with our doctors on site. After we got to know Alice, we added her to our housing wait list. So again, like I mentioned, our housing, the tenants in our housing come from our case management list. So we added her to our wait list, and she was a high priority for a one-bedroom unit because she was nearly due. She was 8 months pregnant before she got into our housing. So yeah, like I said, she was 8 months pregnant when she was offered a one-bedroom apartment with us. The housing specialist that we have on our team helped to arrange direct rental payments from youth services. And I can't remember in Ontario if CAS is like youth services and children or not, but yeah, okay.
Sorry, I couldn't find my unmute. Yeah, it's children and youth until the age of 18 or 23, depending on what program they're with.
18, okay. Okay. Yeah, so her youth services worker ended up paying her rent directly to us. We did a furniture bank referral, got her apartment set up, helped her with move-in. the doctor and the case manager apply for a $150 a month nutrition supplement through GovNL. So that's kind of how Alice was supported in getting into our housing. I guess now, she was in our program for 2 years. So she's at 18 years old, she was offered support. So she moved from a one-bedroom unit. We put her into a two-bedroom once she had baby. She was on the wait list for that. Um, and then she was offered St. John's City Housing because when folks move into our housing, we complete like NL housing sub applications and city housing applications because the goal is to eventually transition them out of our housing if we can. Um, so Alice was offered city housing and has moved out. She's maintained custody of her child the entire time. Her child has not gone into care. She has had sporadic CSSD involvement, but she's maintained parenting on her own pretty successfully. She frequently joined our peer-to-peer groups and other family-based programs with her child. Her child's built familiarity with staff. So we have child minding services on site during our peer-to-peer group. And he goes down into our child minding space. He's meeting most of his developmental milestones. And we're kind of working on transitioning Alice out of the program at this point. So that's how somebody might move through Momma Moments, and the types of supports we might offer at a higher level. Does anyone have any questions about that?
If you're comfortable sharing, I'd like to hear more about it.
Hear more about it?
Mhm.
Yeah, like about the case or
The additional services. Yeah.
sorry.
The additional services.
Right. Okay. So I guess because we're client directed, we kind of meet people where they're at and support them with what they need in the moment. But we have like our staff often connect with like the eating disorder here, a clinic here in St. John's. You know, we might support people with going to their appointments there or hosting their appointments here. Um, we also do different programming, like we do play groups. We have a food cupboard. We've got our peer-to-peer group. We also have a parent-based drop-in. So every other week we do a drop-in where anybody who identifies as a parent of any age, so like grandparents can come to our drop-in and just connect with staff and have a meal. A lot of what we do is revolves around food and a meal. That's how we get people in our doors, or how we get in their doors to support. Um, sorry. So how long? Sorry, there's a question. How
I can
long
go.
do we stay involved? Yeah, this is a question we get asked a lot. Like, how long is somebody on our caseload or a part of our services? We we kind of have two-tiered services. So we have case management, which again, 2 years is kind of the max. So it depends on when. So 2 years post-natally is the max. So someone could be in the program 3 years if we get them at the very beginning of their pregnancy. And after we close them out of case management, they can still access kind of wraparound family support. So we can do meal support once a month. They can come to our parent drop-in because it's open and available to anyone. Um, Situationally, they can still access the doctor if they haven't transitioned to another family doctor or another clinic in the city of St. John's. And we do work on trying to get them connected to another clinic right as they come in because we can't see people indefinitely for their whole life as choices for youth, but um, sometimes the doctor will keep their children on and not the mom. Uh, I'm trying to think. Yeah. And we also have situations where moms might be a part of our case management services, do really well, have one child, have their file closed, and then in another year receive a new referral because they're pregnant again. So that's totally acceptable. They might be through the program a couple times. I see that there's a hand up by Sierra.
Yeah. Kira, you can go ahead.
Oh, Kira.
Right. Yeah, I had a question, sorry, just around you mentioned dads before. What does support looks like In terms of like the people that you have, do they have partners? Are dads involved? Like, what does that support look like?
Yeah, I have to admit, we need to do a better job at supporting dads, and that's our goal for the future. Our housing right now is only available for single moms. They're really small units, so um, right now they're just available for moms. But how we would engage dads. So I can give an example. We have a mom that's been through our program. She lives in our housing. Um, and dad has never really been involved, but has recently come around and said that, he wants involvement. So through our FNS support, we would engage dad and try to support visits in our center. Try to host like a meeting between mom and dad to talk about like what this would look like in the future. We would offer referrals to dads all the time to our mental health services, to addiction services in town. So we might more frequently refer out to dads or family members, but we don't not support them at all. Does that,
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. We have another question from Diane. Do you have a minimum requirement regarding engagement, goals met, et cetera, so that they need to fulfill in order to remain in the program?
Um, no, not really. I mean, if someone's MIA for 2 months, um, we might look at like reaching out a couple times and giving a deadline on when we might close their file. But again, we would be, they'd be on a list where if they came back, if they resurfaced in 3 months or 4 months, we would just open them right back up again and start supporting them. It is a bit tricky with caseload management when that stuff happens, um, but no. Um, there's no minimum requirement for engagement. And I like, knock on wood, I have to say we haven't had trouble with engagement, really. Like, we might have people who are apprehensive to come to groups or apprehensive to come to our center or apprehensive to work with other staff or meet our doctors. But for the most part, I mean, we could just go out and have coffee with someone once a week for 3 months if that's how we build rapport. That's what we do. So, and yeah, yeah. Is there another question? No, no. Okay. Is there anything, Brenna, that you think I didn't touch on that we talked about yesterday or?
No, not really. I think that was really incredible to hear about the just the wraparound services because you have the doctor on site, you have the affordable housing piece, you have all the programs on site that also are not necessarily mandatory, but youth will want to engage with regardless.
Yeah.
And then supporting with the mental health piece as well is just I think it's incredible to hear about. Did you want to speak a little bit about the number of families maybe that you've supported over the year or the years?
Yeah, so I mean, last year we supported 105 moms and 122 kids um, through case management services. And there was something else I was just going to say, actually, that you reminded me of. What was it? Um, Yeah. And again, like I said, we have three case managers. Their caseloads are anywhere from, 8 to 12 people, moms per caseload. And then we have our housing units. So not everyone in our housing units are attached to a case manager, but we have the community support worker who would provide support to those folks as well, and does group support. Our program has changed a lot in the last couple of years. We used to do programming in other like sister communities around St. John's, but right now we're just focused on St. John's because the rural areas are kind of difficult to get people out and around. And um, another thing we do is we have a really large budget for taxis. We taxi people everywhere to all of our groups. It's really difficult to get people to groups if you're not providing meals or transportation. And I know that government and funders don't necessarily love that, but it's essential to get people out, especially parents who are lugging children and things. And yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's something I wanted to touch on. Again, I'm not sure what it's like where you are, but here there's a bit of a gap with folks who are um, like I would say 15 to 18 and pregnant. So in St. John's, if you are in your family home but really unsupported or in a terrible environment, and you have no income, you can't apply for income support, or I guess there is it still called Ontario Works? You wouldn't be able to apply to that until you're 18. So the only option is to be funded through youth services, but youth services won't fund you if you're living with your family. So one of the ways that we've been able to support people is through our housing. So we might take a 16-year-old prenatal mom and move her into our housing so that she can get support with youth services. Um, and with those funds until she's 18 when she'll transition to income support. But it is tricky. We've also had moms in group homes who are 16 and end up pregnant, and they're not allowed to have their children in the group home. So what would happen is there'd be an apprehension at birth, that child would go into care, and that mom's still in care at a different group home. So we've taken moms like that and moved them into our housing because they can live there together and receive support by youth services. So a couple holes in the system that, you know, yeah, I know Brenna, we chatted about that, so I wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting just the difference between the provinces as well, just because the apprehension immediately was just interesting to hear from your perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions, thoughts, or comments?